Well, today it's something interesting on the program. A U.S. Congressman that had to take and sue all the way to the Supreme Court, the Illinois State Election Boards, over rules on when things had to be checked. A little postmark on the envelope. We're going to talk with U.S. Congressman Mike Bost at Veterans Airport today. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can always make sure you never miss anything. Congressman Mike Bost. Gosh, Mike, good to see you again, buddy.
Good to see you, Tom.
I was thinking about when we ran into each other in the parking lot, and I think the first time we met, we ran in the parking lot, except you had a gray T-shirt on, and you were working for the Murfreesboro Fire Department.
That's correct.
and I'm like, and I hadn't been around very long as in Murfreesboro. I think we were at the Apple Fest, and I was like, who's that? And that's Mike Bost. I mean, the Bost Trucking Company? And now it'd be Bost, you mean the Congressman?
Yeah.
Things have changed over there.
I think it's still the trucking company. But
yeah. You know, this is an incredible fortuitous moment that we're able to run into each other here and do this, because this week, Supreme Court 7-2
ruled I had standing.
This took too damn long.
Yeah. Well, but May of 22 was when we first filed this. Then it goes into the court in the Chicago area. The attorneys, then the group handling it is Legal Watch. And the ruling came from that before they even took up the case that I did not have standing.
This is the important part, because I expected more as to the time we've waited to have more substantial impact. So let's get to this right now.
Okay.
This is you. The absence of the two other individuals in this lawsuit, I didn't see their name in the Supreme Court paperwork I went through.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's two other files that are different filings.
Okay.
There's the one on Mississippi.
It says Bost and two.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember who the other two are. It was just I took the lead and at their request, but it was other candidates, and that's just it. The ruling from the lower court was you didn't have standing because this is really amazing.
Yeah.
So
didn't have standing because
This is the argument of the state. So first off, it went to the appellate court, and the appellate court upheld the lower court. The Supreme Court looked at it and said, oh wait, maybe we should take this one up. So we were shocked when we heard that the Supreme Court was going to take this up, because there's been many others that they've ruled that candidates did not have standing. So when on October 7th, October 9th, when we went and pled our case before the Supreme Court justices, which is a very interesting process to watch.
The verbal argument.
Especially whenever it's your name being mentioned.
Yes.
Okay, and what's really neat is all of the justices pronounced my name correctly. So it was really good. Yeah. And so the attorney for the state, she argued that I did not have standing because I couldn't lose. That was her first statement. And then she says, and over the last two election cycles, he's won with almost 80% of the vote. So when Roberts, who got to do the first asking after she finished, he said, first off, you made a statement that Congressman Bost could not lose. He said, anyone can lose on any given day. You didn't need to understand that. And he said, I also need to say and ask you, you're saying that because he had 80% of the vote, that he wouldn't have standing because it wouldn't have harm. Well, how about if he had 75%? Maybe 70%.
Where's the line?
And that's what the argument.
But see, to me, this is not the argument. But I understand the legal system, but I read this and I thought it had none of the passion, none of the insight that I expected for an essential part of a democracy to work. A democratic republic is the right to vote and the integrity of the vote. And they do talk about this in the paperwork. They talk about public confidence. When it falters, confidence in elected representatives follow. So that's the harm, is jobs depend on the support of the people. And see, the whole time around, I'm looking at it, this is the integrity of the vote. This is an indictment on mail-in voting and its integrity. And the integrity of the vote is essential. Every single political science teacher I've ever had in my life.
And that's the importance of this case when we go back and now hear the main case, now that they've decided that I have standing. This also, though, influences other cases where they're claiming candidates do not have standing. Candidates have standing. Actually, to tell you the truth, I believe voters have standing.
Well, they do have standing. And anybody who thinks they don't, I seriously question their education, because it has to be a fair process. So Congressman Mike Bost against the State Board of Elections. And that what they were saying was that votes that had been mailed in and had a postmark 2 weeks after the election.
Postmark 2 weeks, not the election day.
2 weeks after the election day.
That is the violation. That is the problem that violates federal law and constitutional law. Because the election day is when the votes are to be counted, and election day is the first Tuesday after the first Monday of any even calendar year. That's election day. Never been that question. Now we have election week, election half a month.
See, now that was another point. The interesting thing was when I was reading your court materials that say, look, then we have to continue our campaign for 2 weeks after the election.
You have to have attorneys there. You have to have all of these things. So that's standing because it's costing you money. It can cost you votes. It costs you time.
All right. So you've been harmed. I think
that's standing.
To be honest with you, the entire system is harmed by this. And anybody says differently, I'll argue with you about it. But here's the thing. This is just now the first big success after overcoming the lower court ruling. So what's next? Because I know there's other lawsuits.
Right. There, as of right now, in a week or two, Mississippi will have a similar lawsuit that's coming before the Supreme Court.
And that precedent will be set by your case.
That precedent will now be set.
Good.
And other ones from here on out, they will not be able to throw down the argument you don't have standing, especially if you were a candidate. Now, what you also want to understand is that the far left is arguing, because they want to find the boogeyman in this, okay? And what they argue is, oh, you don't want our military people to vote. Oh, yes, I do. Let me explain to you that that's not anything new. You know when I voted my first time? 1980. You know where I voted from? 29 Palms, California. I voted for Ronald Reagan.
Absentee ballot.
Absentee ballot. I requested it, and they had to send it to me 45 days prior to. This is law. This is federal law, been federal law a long time. That was 1980. I voted, my vote counted. All of a sudden, they're saying, oh, no, we have to have this so that military can vote. No. You still run the election day. You run it back this way.
We've been doing it that way for years.
Forever.
I voted absentee that very same year, one of those years too. When I was in Tennessee working another job.
Yeah, and it wasn't just military.
Illinois, right?
Anybody could request an absentee ballot.
And I like to vote. I remember the first time I went to vote was, you and I are the same age, 1980.
1980.
My boss from work had Dave Bard's school vote. I went to vote with my boss. It's American. I remember it vividly, right? So here's the thing. What's next? Because this has kicked open the door, but voter integrity is really the topic I want to talk about here right now, because people, when they start losing faith in the vote, they don't go to the polls, their will isn't known, the wrong people get elected to office. The people who do vote see it's off, they don't like it, they lose confidence in the republic and the political office. This is fundamental stuff that is not being treated with the scrutiny I think it deserves. Mail-in voting is bad.
Here's the important thing that you need to know. That when we talk about our Constitution on the voting and how the voting is handled, the only thing that the Constitution says is when the votes, an election day. But the other thing it says is all votes and voting regulations will be handled by the state through a vote of the state legislature.
Yes, that's right.
Okay? That was an argument that we had whenever whenever Biden, we were deciding whether we were counting the votes, why we said and why the brief that was written on that was a 125-page document written actually by Mike Johnson and along with other scholars on why it is that those votes should not count from those states because they didn't use their state legislature. Either their governor made a choice on his own, or they had a board outside the state legislature that was not approved by the state legislature that set up their voting process for COVID. And that the Constitution didn't say unless we have a pandemic.
Right.
And that was the argument back then. So we need to remember that. Now, the argument needs to be made in all of our states to have a secure election. And you're going to, because if you talk to the scholars, to have a secure election, you need to have voter ID and paper ballots.
Yes.
Paper ballots, not machines.
Do you think that this is the beginning of that step towards that?
I think it will open up the door to allow standing to the people who have been harmed by certain...
By not having IDs.
By not having IDs, so they can go ahead and the courts will have to... It will force the hand of the courts to have to take it up. Yeah. That's, I think, will be the big advantage.
It's interesting because when I'd come out and talked about this earlier, a Chicago reporter was talking about me, like Tom Miller of Southern Illinois, and announcing where I was at, doesn't want handicapped people to vote. And I'm like, where
did they come up with that?
Where did you get this? And where do you live? That's the other thing. So I just got a rebate check from the government. I think I got a flight out of Veterans Airport to Chicago. I'll see you soon. I'm like, these people say stuff.
It always amazes me, the people on social media and the boldness.
That's a reporter, Chicago Tribune.
Yeah.
So, hey, so here's another question for you. When was the last time you saw the president?
Saw him about a month ago when we signed into law the increased money that would be going to our Congressional Medal of Honor winners.
Oh, I saw that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that is an annual boost.
Yep.
And in perpetuity.
Yeah, and so it's right. It does not go against somebody that's totally disabled or something like that. Most of them have a disability of something like that. But this is to offset them because they do a lot of traveling. Because they're kind of,
they're stars to us.
Yeah. And so got to see him then, and not only did I get to see him then, that was the first time I got the coined by him.
Oh,
I keep that one in a special place.
Well, but do you have one of these?
Did you get a birthday card?
I got a nice letter from the President of the United States.
Isn't that an amazing signature?
I'm pretty sure.
And just so you know, that was not auto pen.
No auto pen.
No auto pen. He doesn't use the dog.
I just thought that would be nice. But it was a congratulations on my retirement that the president was good enough to send to me, and I have a sneaking suspicion you may have had something to do with that.
There was a guy by the name of Joe that we talked to, and glad you got it.
I'm glad you got it.
And like I said, even the other presidents for things like this would use auto pen. This guy does not use the auto pen.
I like that. I got Donald Trump sent me a letter. That's going on a really prominent place in my wall. My entire family is planning on building a small altar around it too. So it's kind of nice. So the thing that I find interesting, and you have a lot more exposure to this situation than I do, having spoken to the president on more than one occasion. He's not the same person on the phone that he is in front of the podium.
True.
And and there's a congeniality that I find, and a sense of he wants to know you, and he's curious, a very curious person. Why? And
he's a listener on the phone, and even when we go over as groups and we're going to be talking, he will. Well, the first example of that was his first time as president when we lost those 300 jobs at Granite City.
Yeah.
And I went into that meeting.
Steel plant.
And all of a sudden, he looked over, and I'm pretty sure he was asking Mike Pence to speak. But when I started speaking, because he said, "Mike, what do you think?"
What?
I jumped in.
Good deal.
And he listened with such intensity that he then used Roth to implement 232, which brought those 3,000 jobs back. And if you'll remember, we had that rally there for those union members. That were
reopening now.
They're reopening now.
Yeah, right. Which I think is a great one. There's one thing that has bothered me, and it has most of the country. So fraud in Minnesota, $9 billion. Realize you're the congressman from Illinois. Minnesota's not your dog to fight, right? Got that?
Yep.
$9 billion since 2018. Food programs, daycare, half stolen from Medicaid childcare, half. $18 billion there. $14 million for autism. On the list goes. So I did a little homework. $9 billion in fraud. The average taxpayer in the United States, federal, pays $13,890 annually. That means what was stolen was the efforts of 647,948 taxpayers. Let's just call it 648,000 people's
taxes
money
were
was
just stolen and used. And actually, with some of these people, the amount of money that was stolen by them was more than what their GDP is in the nations in which they came from.
Suitcases of money.
Yeah.
There's a suitcase of money.
with no existing facility even at all. And it took an internet reporter that had the aggressiveness to go do what reporters are supposed to do.
Right. Now, do you think we have a similar problem in Illinois?
I believe that we need to make sure we do a thorough investigation to find out. Now, let me tell you that I have had several good quality daycare providers that are worried that they're going to pull the funds. But
I've got friends of mine, I got family working daycare.
Yep.
They can't keep their nose above water now. They have to charge so much. The family can't do it. It's cheaper to stay at work. Hell, you come from Murfreesboro. First thing that I was taught, why people work at the courthouse, so they can get the insurance. They're not going to make enough, but the husband, whatever, wife, whoever's not working there, that was I needed the benefits.
Yep.
And daycare is one of those.
Right. And the daycare providers that are legitimate daycare, matter of fact, one stopped me at Kroger's the other day.
Struggling.
Yeah. But what she also said is, because there may be fraud here, we aren't all going to get you. And I said, no. I said, do you have records? She said, yeah, because I'm required to have records.
Yes.
And does somebody check those records? And they go, yeah. I said, where the problem is if you get into the Cook County area and other areas, and all of a sudden they aren't checking those records, then that's why we have oversight from Congress. Remember, as chairman of the VA, I have 28 employees. Not all of them do oversight, but the areas of VA are divided up so that we can do oversight.
Yeah, make it consumable.
So we can go out, but I will tell you that during the Biden administration, when the Democrats were in charge, there was no oversight.
There was so much fraud. We got to learn a lesson from this. We cannot take entire tranches of money and say, here's $9 billion, and NGOs go out and give that away. We got to stop that.
Well, you got that.
No accountability.
Let me tell you something that happened to me personally when COVID was going on. And back when you were on the radio, I think you and I may have had this conversation. So the house that I lived at on Walnut Street in Murfreesboro still had the beauty salon in it, but we didn't live in the house. Well, when COVID occurred, I still was checking the mail there. I had my mail at my other place, but I would check the mail there. And all of a sudden, during COVID, I got a credit card from California. And I thought, well, that's strange, because the only time I was in California was whenever I was in the Marine Corps. But somehow you could remember, if you were going to need benefits, you applied,
yes,
and they would send it to you. Groups of people would find addresses where people had recently moved or think they would no pick them up, and then they would send people out to get these and beat them to the mailbox. That card from California had $11,000 on it. I know what it had on it. Later on, they added another $8,000 to it. I never used it. But the sad thing is, I got a card from Illinois, same thing. I didn't qualify, and I never applied for it. So I called the unemployment agency in the state of Illinois, because I still had my connections from the state, and I said, what are you doing with this? They go, yeah, well, we think that people are doing this, and then they'll come catch it and they use it. And I said, and what do you have to do oversight and check that? They go, we don't know.
How much?
The money just thrown out the door because of quickly rolling it out rather than having oversight.
Right. So this has brought us to the next phase.
Yes.
And that is the president says, no more money for sanctuary cities, no more money for sanctuary states.
Yeah.
Now,
then that's on the governor.
I spoke to the governor, and the governor and he told me this is personal, one-on-one phone call. We were talking about it. He says, Illinois is not a sanctuary state. Chicago is a sanctuary city. Okay. But Illinois is not a sanctuary state.
Yeah, I thought they had taken that status. That's good to know, because by the time that even came a word, I was already in Congress. I wasn't in the state legislature.
Right, yeah. And then even then, he says, and I didn't make it the state status, Bruce Rauner did.
Yeah.
So we and I had, but it still won't stop the fact that Chicago and stopping that money, because they are a sanctuary city. There's no debating that.
Yeah. So, and he has the power of the purse, or not the power, we have the power of the purse, but he has the power of administering the money. And even though the suits are out there by our governor and Tim Walsh, who I know well, by the way, and Gavin Newsom and other states that have chose to go down this path. But I'm going to tell you, radical position on this does not line up with the United States general public at all. Matter of fact, just today, two Democrat commentators, one, what's his name, that used to be the Bill Clinton's main guy that was the strategist. That
Carville?
Huh?
Carville?
Carville has explained, because once again, I have colleagues in college in Washington, D.C., screaming to defund the police. And his attitude, and the other was, that didn't work last time. People want police to do their job and enforce. And right now, with what we're dealing with,
the Minneapolis mayor yesterday, the police chief is standing on his shoulder.
Isn't that sad to be there?
And says, take this fight to the mayor says, take this fight to the streets. And the police chief, you can see the look on his face.
And let me give it to the state of Illinois. At least with the chaos that was occurring in Chicago, the Illinois State Police were right there. They really were. I'm glad to see that.
At the detention facility, they stood in with with pepper
because
spray.
The worst thing you can do is tell officers not to support other sworn officers. That's almost, I mean, that's
Civil War-ish.
That's a no-no to the level that would be like saying that whenever, as my firefighting days, whenever Carbondale called for mutual aid, you know what?
Nah.
Our taxpayers aren't sure we want to come over there for that.
Yeah,
No.
right? That's a great example. All right, so here's one for you. Trump winning. Remember when that was a big phrase?
Mm-hmm.
I think Venezuela was a pretty big win.
It's huge.
I mean, when you look at the sonic weapon and how effective it is and going in and getting it, we didn't lose anybody. We got him, we got his wife. Uninjured.
Except for he fell.
The part that stuns me is the people of Venezuela take to the streets and say, thank the Lord, amen, thank Donald Trump. While you've got streets filled in the United States of America when you shouldn't have done that. Well, the Venezuelans have a different opinion, and those of us who are a bit older remember, once upon a time, Venezuela was the number one consumer of the Ford F-150 truck outside the United States.
They were one of the wealthiest countries in the world.
Things were cracking.
Yep.
And somebody saw that big pile of money in Venezuela. They lusted after it. The socialists came in. So you literally today have people in this country saying, you shouldn't have done that. What do you want us to send him back? We had a $25 million warrant out for him, bond. And the people here are saying, no, there's the wrong thing to do. That duality bothers me.
Well, I had a
well, we can use that for Iran and Israel too.
I had a media person yesterday, not from this area, ask me, was supposed to be talking about the Supreme Court thing. At any rate, he brought this up and said, what do you think of us stealing their oil? And I said, stop. No. We have sanctions on there, and we have had for a long time, because their leader was a criminal that had already had charges against him here in the United States.
International court.
And international court. And therefore, what you have the ability to do then is seize that oil. Now, let me tell you that oil was originally seized by this government, their government,
the
Maduran government, well, actually the one before, that was actually owned by U.S. companies and other world companies.
They took all the oil, they took all the resources, the refineries, all the stuff.
Yeah.
That's right.
And you can, look, Venezuela in the long run is going to be better for this. They already are. The question is how do we stop when the vacuum is created to make sure the right people. And right now I trust this president to do it because he's watching it very closely. And without going into details of what I know about the action.
We'll do that after.
The only the CIA and our U.S. military can do an action like that and know the information that they knew and where he was.
Exactly.
and have an inside track. And let me tell you that a good Southern Illinois boy was actually right in the middle of the information that was coming in, and that's John Reckliffe, who graduated Carbondale High School in 1983.
Yeah, I forgot. He got a big promotion a while back.
Yeah, he did. He did.
So, I was going through my email last night and I saw, we have your 1099. Okay, all right, got to start getting my tax stuff together. I'll tell you, should I and many more people be a little more excited about taxes in the big, beautiful bill this year?
Yes, because you are going to see all those things that we put in that big, beautiful bill.
Give me an example.
No tax on overtime. No tax on tips, but then remember...
you beat me to it. I was going to bring it up.
The no tax on tips has been negatively affected by the state of Illinois, which is very frustrating because what in the world are you thinking where you can reward those people who are on the front line working every day?
I'm going to ask you that's exactly the way I put it in an interview. It's yet to air, but it'll be before people see yours. Is this about tax on tips or is this about J.B. Pritzker and Donald Trump?
I have to believe it's politics because the thing is, who does that to your, like I said, if you're working for tips and you're getting tips and now all of a sudden it says you can, and it's not all of them, it's what, 12, I'm trying to remember the amount.
That's $600, $800, but you got to report over $6 or something.
No, but the thing is, on our bill, it was like up to $24,000 in tips. You didn't have to report, and overtime. But you see that in there. You can see it if you bought a new car. And remember, this goes back.
Yes, retroactive.
Retroactive to the beginning of this of 25. And so if you had bought a new car, there's no tax on that. So you're going to see, and you're not going to see the tax increase that was going to happen had we not passed that.
Right, because that came from Trump's first administration.
First administration.
And it was due to cancel, and so kept that, reinstated it because Dems
this was a Democrat talking point on this years ago. They said, well, why in the world did you leave the corporate tax permanent because there's more money brought in by the personal tax, income tax, and the CBO score would not allow us to go make it permanent. But because of the CBO score, we made it this many years down the road in the hopes that we could get it passed, and we got it passed.
Yeah, and the world didn't end.
The world didn't end.
Imagine that. Just a couple of little house cleaning tips here. We may get a chance to go back to BBB, but I don't want to run out of time, and I know you've got a busy day. I was looking over a House bill, I believe it, or a House resolution to 7006, $9 billion in spending priorities.
Yes.
I was going through that, and I did see my friends down in Anna, local funding $1 million for a sewer and inflow.
Yes.
I think there was more than 10 or 12 places that received some money. We talk about Venezuela, we talk about the Supreme Court, we talk about J.B. Pritzker, we talk about $9 billion in fraud, but keeping the lights on, keeping the water on is one of the biggest deals that people maybe don't understand the roles that you play. I talked to my friend, matter of fact, talked about him in one of the early interviews, Steve Lambert over in the Mitchellsville Water District, huge supporter, by the way, Mike. And what they're doing to keep the water flowing. They need help.
Yep.
And here's the thing. I talked to Paul Jacobs, and he says these water districts have gone so small that they don't have the number of people they need to be able to
provide
apply.
the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yep.
To pay in to be able to, or even in some cases, to apply for assistance.
Right.
There's not enough. Judging from your reaction, I'm already in. And Paul Jacobs District and Windhorse District, 153 water districts that are going, we're in trouble here.
Yep. Yeah, and that's been the case. As a state legislator, we called those members' initiatives, and I actually still have the files from everything that I put in for. So if the taxpayer came to me and said, I can't believe you voted for that, well, let me tell you who it helped and how it helped. It wasn't some strange projects.
And it's not some huge astronomical score. One of the repair projects for the sewer project in Carroll was $30,000. They can't get that.
Right. So in this bill, and this is, now here's the sad reality is, during the Boehner time and Nancy Pelosi, remember, they used to call these earmarked. Now we've changed the name on them when we brought them back. But Boehner and Nancy Pelosi, and if John was sitting right here, I'd still say the same thing, and he'd go, well, that's not true, but it is. They took the power away from the individual member of Congress, and then they gave it to themselves and bureaucrats to decide who and what and where. Well, the idea of our forefathers was the fact that we controlled the purse strings. Why? Because we represent the people.
The House.
The House. And so in that bill, we had $9 million through the 7 infrastructure projects that were in there and there's other things in there too, but this is $2.1 million in Clinton County to upgrade an emergency radio and communication system. $1.636 million in wastewater for the village of Maystown. $1.2 million for water main replacements in the village of West Salem. $1 million for sewer improvements in the city of Anna. That's what you were talking about. $1 million for a new water treatment plant in Robinson, Palestine Water Commission. And $1 million for sanitary sewer relining in the city of Caseyville. We are constantly reaching out to our local communities. That doesn't mean we're going to be able to fund every one of them.
Right.
But we've got to be able to try to get that revenue.
Well, that's why I called you, and I don't know if he has, but my friend Polk County Sheriff Jerry Suits, I'm talking to him. He said, I said, what are you doing, Jerry? I'm in the barn working on so I can keep the vehicle on the road.
Yeah.
I think law enforcement, with what they do down there and the nature and the rural nature of it.
Vehicles are pretty important.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at this point, I'm thinking about stealing something somewhere, driving down Jerry. He wouldn't appreciate that. He's pretty much a law and order guy, but he'd appreciate the heart while he handcuffed me. But your office was good enough. Give me a number. We're trying to work on that member initiative so I can get Jerry a police car. And there's more like that. All right. Now, when it comes to another item that I watched you at, and you were up at the podium at the House, and it was the censure of LaMonica McIver.
Yes.
And they had a full-fledged adolescent tantrum on the House floor. Yeah.
I was in the chair, and censorship is a very serious thing. Unfortunately, with the hyper partisanship that is now occurring in the House, it actually occurs more often, but she had went down a path that she should not have went down. She's the one that actually pushed to get herself into the ICE facility, remember? And so she was going to be censured for that.
She wasn't the only one.
And but she's the one that put their hands on somebody.
There you go.
So I am in the chair, and I am having the clerk read into the record. And if they started making so much noise, then I will say the clerk will suspend. And then...
That's because they were stopping the function.
They were stopping the function. At which time I gavelled down and order. We will have order. We will have order. When I hit the gavel, and I hit the gavel the next time, the head came off and broke of the gavel. Lucky enough, the parliamentarian stand there, caught it in midair so it didn't hit somebody.
Didn't need a workers' comp.
He did really well. Yeah.
Claim, so.
And I said, get me another gavel. And so while that was going on, instead of waiting on the gavel, I just looked at the clerk and said, read over them.
All right.
And so it got in the record. But this is the chaos that the other side of the aisle tries desperately to cause. It's normal, not normal, but it is an occasion that you'll say no, or somebody else scream out.
People don't know the difference between of this ilk. Don't know the difference between protesting and a riot.
Right, and that's it. Because, well, for instance, if you'll remember, several years ago, I forgot what it was. It was probably during the first Trump administration. A group of the Democrat legislators decided to have a set-in.
Yes, I remember it. That's right.
That's a violation of House rules.
Yes. In more than one location,
you can stand outside. I'll tell you another thing that I found out, and I actually had to call a Republican down on this. So when Trump took out the dictator just recently, Maduro, the person who was saying how terrible it was to take out Maduro was on the floor leading in the debate on the Democrat side. And the guy on the Republican side was Brian Mast. And he was talking about how Trump was terrible, taking out Maduro. He said, now you may be saying that, and Brian Mast pulled up a picture of the two of them holding arms around each other. And so you can display, and this is the House rules and why you need to know them, but Brian would keep the picture up when the other member was recognized. Well, you can't do that. The only time you can have a
display.
Prop or a display is when you're recognized. If you are not, then once you're no longer recognized, they need to take it down. So I had to advise the Republican side of the aisle, when the gentleman is no longer recognized, the display must be removed.
Did he do it?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Because he knows the difference between a protest and a riot.
Because we explained we told the rules. There are rules of the House, and they allow you to do the debate.
My mom and dad told me not to stand and move in front of a moving vehicle.
Yeah.
Not that I make light of that woman and what happened to her here, I don't, but still there's some basic, if you set something on fire, it's not a protest anymore.
And our officers, whether there are state, local, federal officers, have all been trained because of what's happened over many years, that vehicles are a weapon.
Yes, they are. I can guarantee you that. All right, before we finish up today, we covered a lot of ground, but this protest riot, the difference, J.B. Pritzker and Donald Trump, that's a fight right there.
It is. And it's going to get worse, I pray, before it gets better, because it's more about the reaction on the social media than it is what the existing laws are.
I know it's something you've been telling me now for a number of years, that people are playing for likes, not getting business
and people
done.
are going to get hurt. And I was asked the other day about the fact that the possibility of bringing in the military because of
Insurrection Act.
It's not the first time that would have happened. You got to remember, and I told this reporter that asked me that, I said, well, first off, it's been used before, but the first time in my life that I can remember being used was in 1969. It was used at Penn State. It was used at SIU. It was used, and I said, because...
I didn't realize that was the Insurrection Act, 1969, at SIU, because I remember the fighting and the fires. And nearly all
because
that stuff.
Because when, as we just talked about, you can protest. You can scream, you can yell.
You can say anything you want.
You can say anything you want. Almost. But when something goes to physical contact with another person and or destruction of public property, and if you remember in '69, they burnt down Old Main.
I do. So. I remember my grandparents and my parents both, but my grandma and granddad were emphatic. You know, when you grow up, you're not going to SIU. You see what's going on over there, you can't.
Yeah. And the only difference between SIU and Penn State was the bullets didn't fly.
Yeah, difference there. All right, I want to let you go. Congressman Mike Bost has been our guest today. He has been 6 terms, getting ready, running for another one. This is the 12th district, state of Illinois. He just won a monumental Supreme Court battle, 7-2, that is going to open the door for a lot of other issues like myself, the integrity of the vote and mail-in voting. Before I let the congressman go today, what's the thing that you wanted to talk about today that I wasn't smart enough to figure out?
Well, we can talk about what we're doing with the VA. And understand,
it's like 4.6 miles that way.
Yes, I only have one more year as the chairman because we have term limits. That'll be my 6th year as either ranking member or chairman. But we are working with the secretary, who's a very good friend of mine, to make sure that uniformity in the VA. And reducing the overtop bureaucracy. Right now we have 18 VISNs, which is hard to keep track of, and not one VISN follows what the other VISN do. That's now going down to 5, and then and we're getting more control over that. So
ground level troops.
Yeah, because when you have 450,000 employees.
You know, the other thing I find interesting, Mike, is talking to my dad on the phone of how important VA care has become to him. And it happened rather quickly.
Yep.
He started hitting 82 and then 84, and, they'll come and get him, take him where he needs to go, right? The importance of what goes on there goes underestimated for an entire class of people of all ages.
That's right.
And so I'm glad you're there. So if you're not going to stay at VA, you got another committee that you're going to be in line?
Yeah, right now.
I want to see you stay on VA. But
and I may stay at VA. There's a subcommittee that's vitally important on contracting because I have been involved with all that. We'll see how that works out. But we won't know until the steering committee votes on where we're going. But I am on the top dais for transportation infrastructure, which would give me a very good subcommittee. I'm not number one right there.
Well, the transportation, the first thing that comes to my mind in application in Illinois is when Governor Pritzker decided to move billions of dollars from the road fund
on the south
to all Chicago.
County. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's going to leave a lot of people in a lurch at some point here in Southern Illinois when we only get 15 cents of every dollar in the new formula in perpetuity.
Right. And it used to be the opposite of that. We used to get more downstate.
55-45.
And there's a reason why we got more downstate. We have more roads to maintain.
You look at the rest of the state and you go there, and I know they've got a lot of roads, and I get that. Anything else you want to talk about, Mike, before I let you go?
It's good.
Good. Hey, I
really
do appreciate this. What do you think about the new format? This is something different for us.
I like it.
I like it.
I like it because we can sit here and talk. You don't have time restraints for the most part.
See, he knew. Mike knows me. He says, I put a clock out in front of me because all the time we're talking, Mike, I'm seeing how much time I've got left and what else can I get squeeze in. That's nice. We don't have to squeeze.
We don't have to do that. Yeah. And you know what? Talking like this, the only reason I even reached for my notes is because I wanted to give you the exact. And everything else, it's those things that you know and you've worked with, and
you cover a lot of ground.
It's what the people really need to know. They don't need to know. Remember, we're in a time where if you try to have a town hall meeting, they're going to scream and yell and block them all and everything like that.
That's frustrating.
But this allows the opportunity to get the people to know the information.
Right. And Mike Bost has been our guest today. I said Congressman now since, 2015?
2015.
And then a member of the House before that. And,
Yep.
and a fireman. We were just talking about our great times in Murfreesboro at the Murfreesboro Apple Fest and Barbecue Championships. Good times. Congressman Mike Bost, really appreciate it, Mike.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. Mike, you and I were talking. It's just me and you now. This might go on, but I want you to know that. We just finished this interview. And I talked about how long I've known you. Mm-hmm. I liked you before you were a member of the House. But these people, the level of harassment, the incivility that is inherent in social media, and it's gone from social media, they think they can behave in social media like that they can behave like this in public. Mm-hmm. And you can't do I got a friend of mine who's doing the City Hall, I think you know what I'm talking about, and I warned him. And he came back and I said, dude, I told you. He says, man, there's this one table, they all come together.
And they set you up. And that's not fair to the other constituents that are there. That's why we walked away from the town hall.
I'll be honest with you.
And went to a teletown hall.
I kind of looked at it as a member of public safety. You couldn't get anything done, but I don't know which guy, which woman, which whack job is going to do something to me.
Right. Well,
and see, I know you well enough to know that you don't think about that as much as you think about this. What are they going to do to my wife? What are they going to do to my kids?
Yep, and the threats come out. And, that's why they've increased the security thing. It's kind of hard to put it together they did increase the amount we can put in security, but they did advise, and that's one thing that's also part of it. They advise against town halls.
Do they?
Uh-huh. Yeah, the
well,
Sergeant
why
of
wouldn't
Arms.
you? Because here's the thing.
But teletown halls are great.
The luck of the draw, you would have been playing softball when Steve Scalise was shot by a man.
Baseball. We played baseball.
Baseball wasn't it? Excuse me.
Yep.
Shimkus plays softball.
No, we all played baseball. We all played baseball.
Okay. You got a guy that comes out of St. Louis to Washington, D.C.
Out of Belleville.
Shoots Scalise. Uh-huh. And I can't help but think about my guy from Illinois, and he's right over here.
Had I been there, I'd have been the first shot. He had already been protesting outside of our office up there. And there was a guy that led that protest. That's back during when Resist first came up and all that. And there was a guy, and I had met with him, and he said, "Oh, we just want to talk." No, he wanted to cause trouble, and so it was about truly the protest.
Resist should have been called disrupt.
Yes, and so the sad thing that occurred with that was the next time that guy called into the office, I said, "Really?" I said, "The reason why this guy came to D.C. and shot my friends and almost killed one was because you encouraged him." And he goes, "He wasn't even with us." I said, "Do you want to see pictures? Because I have them. I know when you were in front of my O'Fallon office."
And the other thing is, the inherently organized nature of it. So one day, just on a lark, it's fun, you got retirement and you're still busy, so your brain wants to answer questions, and I decide I'll go through these people and I'll pick the ones who laugh. And I started looking at them. Content creator. They don't have a job, or they don't care to admit who they are. They're in California, they're in Florida, they're in Portland, they're in New York. They're not even in your district, they're not even from your state. There's an organized resistance to make it appear as though you are underwater, and they're from everywhere, coast to coast. They get a list and they go out and they bomb you all day.
And some that are, one in particular I know in my district is 6 different people on there.
Yeah.
So, but there's a few that I've known, and I've known all my life.
I saw a few people I recognize as well, but also they weren't dicks about it.
Yeah.
There's a difference. There is.
Okay, the worst case, I go to Kroger's. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I do.
So I go to Kroger's, I'm shopping, this gal comes up, and I've known her since my state rep days, and she follows me around, and I'm thinking, and she always frowns at me, and that's okay, you know? And Kroger's is a quarter mile from my house. And so all of a sudden I just, hey, have a great day, check out. You know. She goes, and it was a holiday weekend, okay? I think it was either Labor Day or Memorial Day. And my grandkids, they like it when I make 3-2-1 ribs in the smoker, okay? So she got on social media and said, I followed Mike Bost around the grocery store. He bought the best bologna and 2 racks of ribs and golden potatoes. Most of his constituents can't afford bologna. That was her post. I started to I started to respond, and then I thought, who sounds like an idiot here? And this is stuff, right?
2 racks of ribs. Trust me, that's just the golden potatoes. It's really about the size, man, and the color of the peel. The price are not substantially different. I know. I love them. They're really good. Ribs. Yeah, we've got 25 people, and I got 2 sacks of ribs. Yeah, I'm a bad man.
Bad guy.
I know. Hey, I just wanted to ask you about that. And
okay.
I think there's a lot of people that support you in spite of that. Yeah. I mean, and watching it, and
the amount of people that call me and say,
"How do you do it?"
Yeah, how do you put up with it?
Yeah, that's first thing. Every time I see you in the parking lot, I want to go over and hug you. So you all right? And Field's got a bulletproof vest on, you know, because
so, of course,
I do worry about you.
Of course, it's funny when my wife and her are out. I will say at different times, I'm pretty callous to it. She says, "No, you're not. You just don't say it to everybody else. You say it to me."
No, I know, because it stuff affects you. And if you're good at your job, you're open to that kind of stuff. The ocean refuses no.
And regardless of if it just takes 50% plus one more to keep you there, you want people to be happy with the job you're doing.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you're always going to agree, but at least you're pulling in the right direction.
So I get to ask questions all the time, but anytime you've got a question for one of our guests or maybe an idea, ask at integritypointmedia.com.